It's your host, Hollie, and it's time for a little teaser talk.
What's going on, everyone? Happy Teaser Talk Tuesday. Hopefully you guys are having the best day ever. If not, it's about to get better because I am super excited to have on the show today Taylor Roberts of Taproot and Riding with Killers. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. I am running rampant. I'm actually down in Columbus, Ohio, in the middle of a writing session with Adam Gilbert, drummer of Starset. He just jumped into the band with me, so we're getting deep into the weeds this week, and then I'm headed out to Sacramento on Saturday, playing bass for 12 Stones at Aftershock, and then on the road with Taproot again. So just on a never-ending train.
Wow. Well, yeah, there's a lot to unpack on that opening statement. But, one thing immediately that comes to mind, and I know obviously it's not like your first gig, it's not your first rodeo, you're kind of a professional at this. But, when it comes to balancing not one, not two, but three bands right now that you're currently going to be back to back, hands in, whether it's writing, playing, all this other stuff, how do you mentally switch gears between all of that?
Sometimes it's forced on me. Sometimes I plan it, but it's usually kind of easy to drop into different roles. Just because with Taproot, I'm the hired gun there, but they're all three very different styles of bands, and it's kind of easy to jump on different tracks because, I have very specific instruments that I play for Taproot. I have very specific instruments that I play for 12 Stones. And then with Riding with Killers, I take over the vocal and the guitar position. But even still, I'm able to differentiate between the three because my path and roadmap is different for all three, and luckily my instruments reflect that, so it generally makes it a little easier to hop in between all three bands without getting mixed up, and thankfully, like I said, all three are pretty different stylistically, so it's not like I'm gonna be on stage at 12 Stones and I'm gonna start playing a Taproot riff or vice versa, so it's I'm very lucky in that I don't want to say it's easy because it's not, but in a way it's kind of easy because they're just all so different from one another.
Well, you definitely make it sound very easy.
I mean, this is all I've ever wanted to do, and
Nice.
Getting these sorts of opportunities, it's I better make the most of it, and I show up to the best of my ability for everybody, including myself, and then on top of in between all three bands, I'm also I own and operate a residential and commercial painting business that services Metro Detroit, and I travel for the country doing
Oh my
that.
gosh.
So, I'm just trying to send myself to an early grave if I can.
I was gonna say, it sounds like free time doesn't exist for you.
Not really. And even when I do get free time, I end up doing work some way, somehow. But it's fun work.
Yeah.
I went to New York. I was just there a couple days ago. It was a little bit of a getaway, but then it turned into getting an invite to the Electro Harmonics factory to do a tour as well as film some guitar content for that company. So it's just take it as it comes.
Day in the life of, huh? My gosh, crazy, crazy. So yeah, you're saying right now you're in a writing session with
Yes.
your new drummer. I know not a new
Yes.
drummer, but your new drummer.
Yes.
How's that going? How's that been so far? And can you give us any teasers? This is teaser talk, so we love a good teaser.
So it's been going really well. Adam and I have actually inadvertently been playing shows together for the last 13 years. My old band from the Gulf Coast did quite a few shows with Starset. We did club shows, we did festivals, and it was just once we finally started talking and getting into this, we realized that we had been around each other more than we actually knew. And just with us hanging out and we're on the same page, we have our own individual interests, but we also meet up at a lot of junctures of things that are of interest to us. So once we started getting into writing songs, it's happening naturally. we're in the middle of doing a song right now, and it's more detuned. It's got a lot more attitude, but it's got like, I'd say maybe like a popish element in terms
Mhm.
of like the way that we're going to orchestrate the chorus and the vocal melodies, but it still retains that heaviness, and it's going to be one of those things where you're going to want to bop your head, or hell,
Yeah.
you can even dance to it. There's a couple of EDM elements, which I'm a huge EDM fan outside of rock, as you figured out
Yes.
as we've been talking and furthering the friendship. But it's cool to start incorporating more elements into what we're doing, because I've got a full record that I released at the end of 2023 called Full Circle. I'm in the middle of finishing my second record with Jacob Herman in Gothenburg, Sweden.
Mm.
And, once Adam and I came together, he was like, well, I want to write music with you and I want to be a part of the process. And I agree with that, because I got an idea for how I want to structure, but I'm not the drummer that he is, and the way that his mind works with my guitar riffs. Like it's been very natural and easy.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's like, I don't know why I would say, I guess I couldn't say surprised me, but I was like, oh, that's an interesting fun fact about the whole, like how like really much you listen to EDM and like involved in that scene. And I had told you, I was like, I've embarrassingly enough, I've always wanted to, but I've never been to an EDM show. So if I was to go to my first, not if, when I go to my first EDM show, what should I expect?
I will say a lot of bass, a lot of bass, a lot of dancing. People will probably be on party drugs like Molly, but I will say, like, versus like a rock show and everyone's plastered, like everyone's just like super respectful, and they're like, oh, sorry, excuse me, like you don't have to worry about getting shoved out of the way if someone wants to get by, which is really nice. And just a lot of the people in the community are super respectful, and just they're happy. They're not plastered, and like, because that's the thing about rock music, like
Mm-hmm.
that's like our time to get out that negativity, and at
Yeah.
least that's why I write rock music, is that I'm taking all of that anger, that pain, that negative stuff, and I'm trying to create something beautiful, but something that helps people release those feelings as well. Like with EDM, you're generally going to dance and have a good time and have a night out and vibe out, and it's a little bit calmer, but I mean, at the same time, you could also spend 6 hours dancing your ass off
Yeah.
till dawn if you want. So yeah, just expect to dance and have a good time, and lots and lots of bass and loud noises.
All about the bass. I love it. I
Yes.
love it. All right. Well, I'm going to definitely fill you in when I attend my first one. I will let you know how it goes.
You should, and I'll tell you, if you can find an EDM show at Red Rocks,
Oh,
that
yeah.
I went and saw Dead Mouse and Cascade there, after I finished a month-long recording session in New Orleans. That was our way to go blow off steam, and it was religious, absolutely religious. And we were second row center too, so there was literally one row ahead of me, but like, because it's an amphitheater, obviously, like I didn't have to, tiptoe or try to look over anybody, and
Mhm.
like I literally watched Joel like chain smoke cigarettes and drink like 7 Coronas and DJ his ass off for like 2 hours, and it was just so cool. So I would recommend at least one EDM show. Like, you probably won't have as much room to dance, but it's still the environment, and it
Mhm.
just hits. Just
All
hits
right.
different.
Well, you sent me over the playlist, which thank you for editing it for a Spotify user, like a
Yeah,
commenter like myself who uses Spotify. But yeah, no, I listened to it. I was like, okay, I could totally like, yes, I feel it. I can envision it.
well, those are all songs from people that I love very much and care the most about in this world. And those are songs that they shared with me, and those are the ones
Yeah.
that hit the most and really got me into that world. So I figured they would probably resonate with you. So I hope you've been enjoying the list. There's a lot of cool tunes on that one.
There is, absolutely. And I feel like this is kind of like this, like you're teaching me the ways. And once I learn the ways, then I'll teach somebody else. I'll pass it
And
on.
that's how you do it. That's the best thing, is getting to share new music with new friends, and especially when you show them something new and you
Yeah.
open them up to a whole different world, like it changes your train of thought, and you never know what that can eventually lead you to. So, people have been wonderful enough to do that for me, and so that's one of my favorite things to do when I meet new people, is to share. And especially like if we're hanging out, like I was just in Pittsburgh, and hanging out with a bunch of friends, and they kind of let me DJ. So I ended up making a Pittsburgh Sleepless Nights playlist that I sent to everybody. And it's like, my hope is that when they hear those songs, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it brings them back to that night and
Yep.
that time, frame of mind. So it's just something I've really been enjoying lately. So I'm
That's
glad
very
you dig
cool. I love
it.
I love that thought process of, hey, like here's a playlist of that night, and then you can always relive it whenever you're ready.
For
Very cool.
sure. And Move for Me, the Dead Mouse and Cascade collaboration that they did, that was one of those songs that, when I heard it, like a week or two later, just instantly transported me back to that moment in time of first hearing it, and it still has that effect 3 or 4 years later. So I've been finding a lot of special music within, the EDM realm.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, I do have to touch on one thing that's very fascinating about you. You're a very fascinating person, by the way. But
Thank you.
one question I have for you is, you have mentioned that you are, again, this is your words, not mine. You are a dinosaur with gear.
Yeah.
So hauling cabs and amp heads while everyone goes digital. What is it
Yep.
about that setup that you just can't let go?
The sound and the feel. I can always tell when someone's playing through a Kemper or a quad cortex or a helix or a fractal, blah blah blah. I've done all that. Like I'm a big gear nerd. Like I worked at a mom and pop guitar shop on the Gulf Coast for like 10 years before I moved away. I did a stint at Sweetwater Sound. So like I really do love gear, whether it's guitar, bass, drums, keyboards, synths, or even studio gear, outboard gear, monitors. Like I love every aspect of it. And I always find that when a lot of bands go direct, a lot of the zhuzh and the oomph is missing, because to me, there's something very special and magical that happens when you have a tube guitar head, you connect it to a 412 speaker, or what I get to do with Taproot and riding with Killers. I always kind of look like a dick when I show up, but like I have a 412 cab, and then I stack a 212 cab on top of that, and I run, a 50-watt head, and I slave two cabs off of that. But just the fullness and the richness and the articulation, once you have that air movement and then you put a microphone in front of that, it hits harder. And it's because it's real, like
Yeah.
digital technically is real, yes, but you're giving a digital footprint of something otherwise that is a bunch of tubes and circuit boards and speaker cones and everything else, and you can definitely get a good replication of it. But I just feel like I'm a better guitar player when I have an actual amp and cab in front of me, and I think less about my job, and then I just play better. Um, Versus, if I'm playing with something to a quiet stage and I don't feel that air movement, like it's just harder for me to get lost in the music, I guess. But that's just always been my thing. Like I think an amp setup sounds better than direct in digital. And I know there are guys that'll argue me till they're blue in the face, but for me, that's just what works.
That's just how you roll. That's awesome. No, it's interesting you had made the comment about, like, just listening and you can know like how, like, or what they're using on stage, right? And it's funny because I feel like anytime I've ever gone to a show, whether it's a smaller local show or even Louder Than Life, I was watching a band play. I'm not going to say names, but I was watching a band play, and John from a Fight From Within was hanging out with us, and he was like, oh, they sound decent, but they could be so much better. And then he starts rattling off all the things that they're using in the sound. I'm like, it's so interesting as musicians. Like whenever I watch a show and with a musician and hearing how they translate the music so much differently than I guess us regular people. I don't know what you would call like us non-musicians. It's
Yeah.
very fascinating how your guys' brains work.
Well, and I mean, it's like we're all essentially audiophiles,
Yeah.
because this is what we've built our entire livelihoods around, and making sounds and finding cool tones, tone chasing. That's part of our DNA. But it's almost like, if you have a good turntable set up and you're listening to an old school record and you're getting the warmth of, the actual tape or whatever have you, versus everything just being digitized and compressed. And it's kind of like what we were talking about too, like with iTunes and Spotify. Like, there's a bit of audio degradation to my ears with Spotify, but the only reason for that is because now with Apple Music, they all have an integrated ecosystem with your AirPods, your iPhone, Apple Music, and everything is generally mastered for iTunes. So you're going to get a little more of the fullness versus, just straight streaming from something that's not, essentially mixed down for that. But again, like, I'm just a huge nerd, so that's really what it boils down to. Because, most people probably wouldn't care or notice the difference, but I'm picky,
Yeah.
So
Hey, standards. It's good to have them. So, also when we were talking about that, you also compared that to like your painting business as well, like still rolling by hand versus spraying. Do you
right.
think that old school mindset also still translates over into how you approach music as well?
I'd say so, because the same way that I approach music, I want simplicity with just the perfect amount of technology. That's kind of how I am with painting. Because again, if you're doing it by hand, generally a handcrafted item, while it's more expensive, it's going to be more artisanal versus something that's just machine spit out. Because, yeah, you can essentially paint a little faster with the spray rig, but you're still going to have to back roll. And I'm not saying there aren't guys out there that don't do an amazing job with it, but for me personally, with the product that I put out, I'd rather do everything by hand. Now, I'll spray cabinets, or I'll spray ductwork, but that's the only time that I ever incorporate something, you know, machine wise with what I do. So again, that goes with my analog guitar gear. I come from an old school train of thought, even though I'm 36, but like all the dudes that taught me and that I grew up with, they're old school musicians. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really grateful for that upbringing, because I feel like they helped me figure out a lot of things that have helped me be successful. They put that there so it's not like excuse me, sorry, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's helped me find a level of success in this industry, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I love it. I feel like I have the same philosophy. Now, don't get me wrong, you would not want this girl with a paintbrush or a musical instrument, but
You
I
don't know
agree
that.
100%.
You don't know that at all.
But it's interesting because I'm also 36 as well, and it's interesting because
Oh,
I remember when I was like the younger one, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not the younger one anymore. Like I missed my first flight to Louder Than Live for my connecting flight because of delays. And I was like literally like running in the airport, like sprinting. I had my backpack on me. I was that hot mess express, like huffing and puffing, trying to get to my gate. And I was the first time I ever stayed the night in a hotel or an airport hotel. Would not recommend, but it was about a lot better than I thought. Anyways, I remember I got back finally to the hotel and I was like, okay, it is what it is. I'm sleeping here tonight. I'll fly out tomorrow. And I remember thinking like, damn, did I throw my hip out? Like I'm getting too old for this shit. It's awful getting old.
yeah. And it's so funny because Adam and I were talking about this. Like we're just kind of done with like sleeping in a van, on the
Yeah.
road. Like no, you need hotels, you need a decent bed, you need a good shower. Like if you're gonna go out and put on a good performance, you need to feel like a human being. And
Correct.
we are unfortunately at that age where the wrong move of bending down to pick up something just throws everything out, and then you can't walk for like 2 weeks.
It's awful,
But
huh?
I'll tell you too, and speaking of that, where you're, I recently experienced this within the last year or two, like especially with my painting business. And you have people that are, paying you this amount of money, and they're like, well, you're the expert. What do you think? And you're like, wait, what did you just say to me? Like, I'm the expert. And it's like, oh shit, I guess I kind of am. And it's like, when did I cross that threshold of being this dumbass kid who didn't know his ass from his elbow to, yep, you know what you're talking about. You tell me. And it's an interesting, doorway to walk through, and it almost kind of gives you a little bit of an imposter syndrome, but yeah.
Such is life, right? Yeah, 100%. So I know you have a busy day planned, and I'm most definitely not going to be the person that keeps you from writing, because the last thing I need is fans coming for me. Like, really? Like, we were supposed to have all this done, and this guy was sitting there yapping because you wouldn't let him go. So before I let you go, again, this is Teaser Talk, and we love to drop teasers and let fans know kind of sneak peeks or a little bit of insider, I don't want to say secrets, but little things that you have on the horizon. So what are some things that you can share with fans that they can kind of look forward to when it comes to the end of this year and then going into 2026?
So there's definitely, like, we're in the middle of writing a new single for Riding with Killers. So we're definitely aiming to put out new music before the end of the year. I'm in the process of finishing the second record. So there's another whole new record that we're going to be doing next year. 12 Stones just inked a 2-single deal. I'm pretty sure I'm correct on all this, which you could always interview Paul McCoy after this, and he could correct any wrong things that I've said. But we're going to be with Judge and Jury Records for the release of 2 singles. I would assume that's either coming into the year or beginning of next. Probably next, because, we're doing the Summer of '99 cruise with Creed and Daughtry and Collective Soul and Filter and Nonpoint and everybody next year. So, definitely some new releases from 2 of the bands I'm in. Not really sure on what Taproot's going to be doing after we finish these 2 headliners, but you can expect that I will be busy with 12 Stones and Riding with Killers next year, and there will be some Taproot stuff, but it'll be sprinkled here or there. And my rep keeps talking with me about this, and nothing's official, but it would be cool to speak it into manifestation on the podcast with you. But there is talks with Gibson about doing a signature guitar for me, which would be amazing. And so I've just been having random talks here or there. Nothing's set in stone, but I'm praying in the next year or two there will be a Taylor Roberts signature Gibson guitar on the way.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and congratulate you on that, because that's huge. So congratulations. That's already happened. Oh, hey, kitty.
Yeah, I was like, I saw something moving. I was like, what is going on? Like, but there's, hey, beautiful baby. That's awesome. Aww. And it's a black cat too. Come on.
I know. Good luck. Good luck. Yeah, it's a huge one. It's a good sign. That means that guitar is coming for sure. That's confirmation.
Yes, and the song that we're writing right now, it's going to be a big hit single. It's going to kick everyone's ass. So nothing but good things on the way.
I love it when music gives me good ass kicking. So thank you again, Taylor. I appreciate you so much. It was so much fun, as always, chatting with you. And I'm glad that you made time out of your busy schedule for us to share things. And honestly, I can't wait for the next podcast catch up whenever you're going to be showing us your beautiful guitar and all the cool shit that you've been doing in between.
Yeah, we definitely got to have part 2.
We will, for sure. Oh, no, like, this is going to be like I don't even say trilogy. It's going to be like
all
Fast and Furious. Like, we're going to it's going to be forever.
Keeping them going all right. Deal. I'm in.
Awesome. We'll have a great creative session, and I can't wait to hear all the cool stuff that comes from it.
Thanks so much, Holly. I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we'll see you soon in person, and then we'll catch up when we catch up next time.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
See ya.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Teaser Talk. Head over to teasertalk.com to subscribe so you don't miss out on another episode. Until next week, keep rocking.